Hi, welcome to Miss Linda's Weekday Daily Show. Sorry, I'm still kind of learning the technology, and so it took me a few minutes to get into the studio. I am Linda Rumpf. I am a reading tutor and parent support coach, and today is week 1, lesson 3 of how to run a guided reading lesson. So I just want to recap a little bit about what we studied in lessons 1 and 2. And I wrote some notes here so that I can get this a little more succinct for you. So in lesson 1, we learned that your home reading out loud, so the child reading to you out loud, is very important for their phonological awareness so they can hear their own mistakes. And that we typically think of reading with a child at home as the parent is reading to the child. And this is wonderful with your very, very young children. As the student becomes an emerging reader, starts to actually read, what they really need is practice reading to you. So when I say that you're going to be reading with your child, what I really mean is you're going to be listening to your child on a daily basis or as often as you possibly can. They need the practice. So this group is really about supporting parents to make that time for the daily listening to the child read. And then lesson 2 was about writing down reader miscues while the student is reading aloud. So some important points we covered about this were, number 1, the reader shouldn't try to interrupt. You know, as teachers, we always want to teach. And as parents, we always want to correct mistakes right away. So the gift you're giving to your child here is to allow them to actually establish fluency. Fluency is a kind of flow where you start to get used to reading in a more conversational tone instead of stopping all the time. And we also talked about instructional versus frustrational levels of books. And next week, we'll get more into choosing books for your reader. But if your reader is really stopping like every third word, they don't know. And we're not talking about very beginning readers. Okay, we're talking about the 4th grader who's 2 grades behind. So, you know, they've already learned a bit how to read, and you've gone through the alphabet with them, and you've gone through some basic sight words. These are the readers that I teach. Teaching a child to read from the very beginning is another specialized skill. So we're not necessarily talking about that when we're talking about stopping every third word. We're talking about children who've already developed a vocabulary from listening and just hearing speech around them. They already have basic reading skills, but they may be behind in grade level for where they're supposed to be with their reading. So what we want to do is place that child in a book that is what we call instructional rather than frustrational. And instructional means that the child will know 90% of the content of the book or passage they're reading. So there's about 10% that they won't know, which gives them something to learn to go up a notch every time that they're working. But we want to have this ability for them to establish a flow in their reading. So we're not going to interrupt. And yesterday we went over what we are going to do while they're reading. Now, if your reader looks to you or asks you directly what a word is, the best practice is just to give them the word and just pronounce it for them while they're reading so that they can move forward smoothly with their reading practice, and so that they don't lose comprehension from the beginning to the end of the sentence of what the sentence is saying. So while they're doing their reading, you're writing down miscues. That's what we talked about yesterday. So you're going to be making a list basically of words they miss. Now, tonight we're going to talk about the actual teaching part of the guided reading lesson. So what are you going to do with your little list you've been secretly writing down while they're reading of what they missed? So basically, you're going to look for patterns. And we're going to be working with word families that speak to those patterns in the words they miss. But before we really go into that further, I want to check back in with our book. So the book of the week that I've been reading a little bit of to you every day so that you can hear the importance of this vocabulary that you get from books and become inspired to really want your children to have this reading practice at home and be able to make the time and find the time because you can see how important it is. That's why I'm reading to you from a very good book. But I realized that for the past 2 days, I've been reading like 2 pages from the book each time. And maybe I'm losing listeners because maybe you don't have your muscle built up for listening to someone read. And so I decided to take it easy on you. So tonight we're just going to have 2 paragraphs. And here we go. Congenital cataracts, bilateral, irreparable. Can you see this? Asked the doctors. Can you see this? Marie Laura will not see anything for the rest of her life. Spaces she once knew as familiar, the 4-room flat she shares with her father, the little tree-lined square at the end of their street, have become labyrinths, bristling with hazards. Drawers are never where they should be. The toilet is an abyss. A glass of water is too near, too far. Her fingers too big, always too big. What is blindness? Where there should be a wall, her hands find nothing. Where there should be nothing, a table leg gouges her shin. Cars growl in the streets. Leaves whisper in the sky. Blood rustles through her inner ears. In the stairwell in the kitchen, even beside her bed, grown-up voices speak of despair. Poor child. Poor Monsieur Leblanc. Hasn't had an easy road, you know. His father dead in the war, his wife dead in childbirth, and now this? Like they're cursed. Look at her. Look at him. Ought to send her away. Those are months of bruises and wretchedness, rooms pitching like sailboats, half-open doors striking Marie Laura's face. Her only sanctuary is in bed, the hem of her quilt at her chin, while her father smokes another cigarette in the chair beside her, whittling away at one of his tiny models, his little hammer going tap, 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 his little square of sandpaper making a rhythmic, soothing rasp. So Maria Laura's blind now in the book, and her father is this very patient man, and he is a hobbyist carpenter. So what is he doing with that little hammer and that sandpaper? He's making a model of Paris. And it fits on a tabletop, and it has every single house and every single street around where she lives. And so in the book, he teaches her with her hands to walk the streets in the model. And So he prepares her to be able to get around the city. And it takes him so long to make this model. And I was thinking, about when we have a child who has a different ability set. Maria Laura was blind. Maybe our child can't read or can't read as well as other children. And, people around us maybe whisper, or we might feel impatient, or we might feel like giving up. We might have tried to find a solution, but our busy lives may have caused us to not keep at it with helping them or trying to um, get that golden solution. And so we just keep limping along. But this man in this book, he didn't ever stop or give up uh, building a solution for his daughter so that she could know where she was going, because she was always going to be blind for the rest of her life. So I thought that was really inspiring for us parents. I also had 3 children. They're all grown now, but I know how it feels when a child has a difficulty at school and no one can give you the solution. And sometimes you keep reaching out and trying to find it. And in the end, you feel like it's all up to you. Well, I am here to save the day. I'm here to help. And I solve the hard cases. I have students with dyslexia, working memory issues, 2 students right now with dialect issues that kept them from being able to pronounce um, vowels properly, just from moving like from one side of the country to the other, or from hearing a certain dialect spoken when they were growing up that maybe didn't match what they were being taught in school. So I'm here to tell you that I believe that everyone can learn to read. Even Marie Laura learned to read. Her father bought her books in Braille. So anyway, I just felt so inspired by his attitude toward helping his child and how he never gave up. So that's what this group is about too, that I have on Facebook. And I'm glad you're here, because we are going to fix this reading. All right, so back to the miscues, and what we're going to do with our list of words that they missed while they were reading. So when I teach reading lessons, the first part of the lesson, a full 20 to 30 minutes, is spent with the child reading to, or adult, I teach adults as well, the student reading to me. And they get their flow, and I get my list. And then the second part of the hour, the second 30 minutes, is the teaching part. So what I do is I'm looking at the list the whole time I'm compiling it, and I'm looking for repetitions of patterns. So for instance, if the child is every time there's, seeing an AI and pronouncing it instead of a, then I'm realizing, oh, so that's a word family, all the words with AI, that says a, like main and pain and afraid. So what I do, if I can't think of 10 words right off the bat that have AI in them like that says A, I Google it up. So this is really easy. Anyone can do it. You can just do it there on your phone in the moment. And then you're going to make a list of 10 words that have that same letter combination or pronunciation or spelling pattern that you want to show them. So you go over these words and you read the first one, the second one, then they'll start to read them. They'll get it. They'll get the pattern through the repetition. And it's wonderful. I made this technique up before I even had advanced training in reading intervention. And it just makes so much sense, because instead of starting with curriculum, you start right where the child is at, right with the exact things that they need to know. And you heard that because you listened to them read. So that's step 3. And tomorrow we will go over when you want to switch it up. So there are certain students who need to see their word lists first before they read. So in the case of those students, and we'll go over who they are tomorrow, I have to pre-read what they're going to read during that lesson, what I'm going to ask them to read, like whatever book or passage. I have to pick out words that I think they might not know. I have to look for patterns. I have to do more work, but it's highly effective. It's called pre-teaching. And for certain children in certain conditions, certain reading issues. And so that's when we switch the parts. We do the reading, the teaching first, and then the reading. And then day 5, we're going to talk about a little bit more about instructional level of books and choosing books. And then next week we'll go more into that. And I'll share with you some of my book lists, and it'll be really cool. So that's about it. And I also just wanted to mention the workbook. I have created a workbook, and Deidre, my trusty assistant, is putting the banner across the bottom there. You can email her to get the workbook at Deidre@readingrevolution, or Deidre.readingrevolution@gmail.com. And she'll send you the link, and it's a free downloadable workbook. And the really cool thing about the workbook is that, well, in it, there are 16 pages explaining a lot of different concepts, and also the run through in a little more detail that I'm giving you in these quick lives about how to run the guided reading lessons, pronunciation marks, just different things that you need. And after that, there are organizational pages. So you're making all these lists, right? You've got your miscue list, you've got your word family list, then you've got spelling list, vocabulary list, different things. Especially if you're trying to do this without the assistance of a tutor. You need to keep all that organized. So the workbook will help you do that. So please email Deidre and she'll send you the link, the download link, or you can go to my website, myhighimpacttutoring.com. And there's also like a button there you can click to email for the link as well. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed tonight. I'm super excited you're here. And we'll see you tomorrow on Thanksgiving. I'm still going to be going live. Now, everybody's going to be around the Thanksgiving table, but I promised I would do this daily, so I will. And I will see you then. Okay. Bye-bye.